Bitcoin is so 2020. GameStop is the new store of wealth, or maybe it's not. On today's ETF battles, we've got 4 video game ETFs facing off. It's a quadruple header, and you're about to get gamified coming up next. Welcome to ETF Battles. I'm DeLegge. The global eSports marketplace is projected to have a compounded annual rate of growth of 24.5% between now and 2027. Popularity has been boosted by league tournaments and live streaming. So which ETF is the best way to play this trend? Well, before we tell you, I've got a special announcement I think you're going to like. Every single episode of ETF Battles, beginning with this one, going forward, you can now download a battle recap summary. Just hit the link below in the description section of each episode and you get your free battle recap. Now, today's matchup is between 4 gaming ETFs. We've got Hero, Nerd, GAMR, ESPO. Some people have vanity license plates. These ETFs have vanity ticker symbols. And we knew this was a matchup that you wanted to see because like buttons lit up like Roman candles after viewer Michael Deshoe requested a battle between Hero and GAMR. But Michael, we decided to take it a step further. Instead of just doing a regular matchup or even a double header, we said, forget about it. Let's do a quadruple header. And by the way, we like quadruple headers for the same reason that Tommy Lasorda liked double headers, because we get to keep on our uniforms just a few extra innings longer. Now, I'd like to throw out this question to our beloved viewers. What were some of your favorite video games when you were growing up? Tell us in the comment section below. I wouldn't consider myself a gamer per se, but I got to say, back in the day, I did enjoy playing Dig Dug and Pac-Man at the local arcade, mixed in with some offline Nerf football and skateboarding. Before we get this battle started, I'd like to carbon date the age of our judges and find out what their favorite video games were when they were growing up. We've got Dave Nadig, Director of Research at ETF Trends, and Todd Rosenbluth, Director of ETF Research at CFRA. Guys, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Great to be with you, Ron.
Thanks for having me.
So both of you will be helping us sort through this surplus of gaming ETFs. Before we do that, what were your favorite video games growing up? Let's start with Todd.
I remember playing Tecmo Bowl. That was a good one. And RBI baseball. I'm a big sports fan. And so as a kid growing up, there were lots of ways of doing it. When I got to college, we played Madden, which my son is still playing now, which just is a reminder of, I think I've outlived Madden.
Yes, that's still a great game. What about you, Dave?
Well, Ron, I'm a little bit more of the arcade guy that you were, it seems. My favorite arcade game was Tempest, so much so that in the 90s, I actually had a Tempest terminal or Tempest cabinet in the trading room where we were trading stocks. So I'm Tempest all the way.
And the bosses were asking, is he playing Tempest or is he doing his job?
And the answer was both.
Oh, well, you guys have hit my sentimental side. And I got to say, Barbra Streisand's Memories is teed up on my post-battles playlist. But we can't play that right now because we got some unfinished business. So Barbara's going to have to wait. So the 4 battle categories for today's quadruple header are cost, exposure strategy, performance, and the mystery battle category. Now, the mystery battle category is where you, our judges, get to decide that single factor or maybe multiple factors that are important to today's quadruple header. And the mystery category is always a surprise. We don't know which you guys are going to come up with, but I know it's going to be good. My scorecard is ready, and it's very crowded. Look at that. So I'm going to have to fill this out. I forgot to mention that we've got so many ETFs to simultaneously analyze that we've expanded the shot clock from the normal 30 seconds to a minute, thereby allowing you judges enough time to make your case. So let's start with the first category, cost. Todd, you're up.
So what I've decided to do with these 4 different ETFs is have a first place and a second place that will help me make it easier as I get to come up with a final winner. Okay. So to me, Hero is the cheapest of the ETFs, HERO. It's 50 basis points. It's Nerd is the second cheapest of those ETFs, but Hero wins. So Hero is cheaper, but Hero also wins out. This is more trading volume and the spreads are tighter. So to us, from a cost standpoint, Hero is the winner, but Nerd would be number 2.
That's excellent analysis. Dave, how do you see it in terms of cost?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I think the outlier here is GAMR GAMR, which is at 75 basis points, which is a lot of money, honestly, for a fairly passively managed, fairly straightforward fund. Nerd and Hero really tied at about 50 basis points all in. I honestly, on any given day, I think they're both winners.
So your pick?
I would pick Hero as well.
Okay, perfect. Let's move to the next category, which is exposure strategy. So Dave, you're up. Who wins?
Yeah, this is where I think the biggest differences are between these products. I'm personally a fan of Nerd's tiered weighting structure and its strict rules about what gets in the portfolio. So you don't end up with, say, a retailer like GameStop in your core video game exposure. I think ESPO is another good attempt here, but it gets really hyper concentrated. ESPO has something like 85% of its assets in just 15 stocks. So I like that Nerd uses a tiered weighting structure. It gets you a little bit more exposure, and it pushes firms like NVIDIA and retailers out to focus on core eSports and gaming names. So for me, I like the exposure you get out of NERD here.
All right. Thank you very much. That's solid analysis. Todd, how do you see it in terms of exposure strategy?
Yeah, Dave took a lot of the points. We're in agreement on the exposure. Nerd is the winner to me on this. I would a couple of things just to add to it. It's got 32 holdings, I believe, which is a nice sweet spot. 30 to 40 stocks is probably a good rationale for it. ESPO, 25 holdings. And is more concentrated, not only in the number of holdings, but in some of those larger cap stocks. So Nerd would be the winner to me. We like ESPO and Hero probably about the same. GAMR, I think we'll obviously get to it in a moment from a performance standpoint. But that ETF is now dominated by GameStop. And depending upon when viewers watch this, it could be over 20. It is currently over 20% of the portfolio. It likely is going to stay that way, give or take. That's a lot for a stock that isn't actually a video game company, just a seller of video games.
Let's move next to the performance category. And Todd, how do you see it in terms of which of these four ETFs wins the battle?
So when you came to us with these ETFs, I ran a screen and I had a winner. And then we had GameStop happen. And so GAMR is the winner in terms of performance. If we look on a one-year basis, it's also the only ETF to have a 3-year track record. Nerd is the second best performer. But last year, all of these ETFs were up tremendous. So I don't think you really could have gone wrong if you looked at 2020's performance. But GAMR, it's just hard to, the performance is being driven in part by GameStop. That's not necessarily something we would have expected, but boy, I guess that's the winner if you're going to only rely on past performance, something that we at CFRA strongly discourage investors do.
All right, Dave, how do you see it in terms of performance? Do you agree with Todd's analysis?
Well, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. In this case, however, I think that what we're seeing in the sort of end of day pricing for GAMR, which is what we have to use to calculate these trailing 12-month performance figures, at some point you have to recognize that that's not real pricing. That is an anomaly based on some stuff that's going on in the microstructure of the market. When you talk about real portfolio performance, I think NERD is the winner here. If we cut off the last 4 days of trading, NERD is trouncing it by about 10% over the last year. To Todd's point, though, all of these have really run. Most of these funds were up about 100% or more over trailing 12 months as we're recording this. That's not normal. Investors shouldn't expect that kind of performance. So to Todd's point, we're going to give this to GAMR because by math, it has to win, but it's also a number you should be ignoring and you should be focusing on what's under the hood.
Good points. We appreciate that. Let's move now to the mystery battle category. And you're still up, Dave. So what is your mystery battle category and which of these four ETFs wins it?
I think in this case, because we're talking about a theme, I think theme purity is my wild card category. And I'm going to lean on Eric Balchunas at Bloomberg a little bit here. He, in their Bloomberg Intelligence feature on the terminal, actually measures and puts numbers to theme purity. And based on that metric, NERD wins by a reasonable amount. It gets an 89 on theme purity from Bloomberg. The next closest would be Hero at 86. GAMR would be all the way down at 75. So if you're going after a theme, I think getting that theme and getting it right is the important part. And I have to give it to NERD here.
Puristas unite. Very good points. We appreciate that. And how about you, Todd? How do you see it in terms of your mystery battle category? What is it and who wins it?
So I'm going to do something that's proprietary. CFRA has a rating methodology looking at risk, reward, and cost. We have a 5-star on both NERD and a 5-star on ESPO. Those are the two that earn a 5-star. So I'll put them together in terms of a tie for first place. If I had to split the difference between them, we would put ESPO as slightly higher because its risk score is a little bit better, meaning it's lower risk. Particularly with a thematic oriented ETF, that's important. But I think both of these are 5 stars. We like all of our children equally. All of our 5 stars are just that, our top picks.
All right, very good. Well, that takes us to the final part of the show, which is the overall battle winner. And we're going to give our judges that final chance to recap their overall winner between this quadruple header. And Todd, you're still up. So tell us what you think.
So using a first and a second place approach to it, NERD is my winner because it was consistently the second place winner in many of the categories. It's just slightly, it was second place, I believe, in cost. It was top pick in terms of exposure. It was a second place in performance, and it was tied or second place, give or take, in terms of that mystery category of a CFRA 5-star rating. So consistently across those 4 different categories, it showed up, whereas we saw GAMR in one approach to it, we saw Hero in another approach. I think, but again, there's some good ETFs in this theme, but NERD would be my winner if we only could pick one of these ETFs. And I think that's how it should be. We should only be able to pick one ETF. All
right, very good. And let's shift to you now, Dave. How do you see it in terms of your overall winner? Do you agree with Todd's analysis?
I do agree with Todd's analysis. I think NERD is the winner here. I think it's a little bit more of a squeaker for me than would be obvious just by what we ended up picking here. I think ESPO is a really solid fund. The only thing it's really got going against it from my perspective is just that hyper concentration. But for some people, that's exactly what they want. They're going to want something that's really going to move when some of these headlines get out there. ESPO is probably the play for that. If you're looking for a longer term core exposure to something you think is going to drive for the next 5 years, I think NERD is the winner.
All right. Well, our judges have spoken, and according to my battle scorecard, NERD is the winner of this quadruple header.
Dave and I are nerds at heart. I think people told us
yes.
that when we were growing up, and now we're actually getting to use it in our favor.
And now it's our job. Yeah.
Exactly. So there is some symbolism that has come true on today's program, and we appreciate you reinforcing some key points. Thematic purity, that really jumped out at me. When you begin to invest in thematic ETFs, that definitely should be a factor. And then just some of the other points, obviously about exposure strategy and, performance is performance, but it's also historical. And decisions that we make, we can only use history, but we also shouldn't be making those decisions based on just historical performance alone. So we have to think about the future and getting back again, I think, to the thematic purity and sticking with the ETFs that are really doing that best and executing what you're after. So thank you again, judges, for your outstanding analysis. It's been fun, and keep up the good work. Well, that does it for this round of ETF Battles. Big thanks again to Todd and Dave for doing an illustrious job of this crowded quadruple header. Don't forget to download the battle recap of today's matchup. Just hit the download link below. Which ETF battles would you like to see in the next episode? Post your thoughts on our YouTube comment section below. You can also hit our Twitter feed @ETF Guide. I'm Ron DeLegge. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.